Dara, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here in eTown.
Yeah. So Helen mentioned that you and your husband are music lovers. Is that how you two met?
Yeah, sort of. Well, we actually met at a weekly dinner club that we were a part of. And when we met that evening, we immediately started talking about things that we were interested in. We connected over our love of live music, and we made plans on the spot to go to Bonnaroo.
Oh.
Yeah, so
okay.
I was very nervous because at that point in my life, I was dating a lot. You know, I'd go on 2 dates and then not be interested, and I just made plans to go on vacation with someone I hadn't actually been on a date with. But when you know, you know.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. So, so it sounds like you and Dave both like to kind of get in and on the water in and around where you live in South Florida. So that's where you noticed the problem with all the trash.
Yeah, it sort of began slowly in what we were doing and just enjoying our life in South Florida. We live right on the water in Biscayne Bay and Miami Beach. And, you know, we would enjoy our paddles. And what started out as a simple pastime, you know, then became sort of a preoccupation with how much trash we were finding. And so little by little, we were collecting it and bringing it back with us. And it just sort of evolved from there.
Did you fill your kayaks full of garbage? Or how did you do that? I'm trying to imagine if you're out there.
Yeah, a little bit, you know, it depends on where we were. So if we were on the beach, you know, we'd bring bags with us. And then, of course, in our kayaks, you know, it became a little bit more cumbersome, you know.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I think a lot of people, you know, myself included, sometimes we're walking along and we see something on the sidewalk and we don't necessarily stop and pick it up. We think we do, but we don't all the time. What's in your backgrounds, you and your husbands, that encouraged you to make that step when you're just out there having a good time to clean up the trash?
Sure. So my background is diverse. So I'm a cultural anthropologist by training, and I did my academic work in studying the music of the African diaspora in Latin America, so things like capoeira and samba. And then I did none of that. I went to work in a digital advertising agency where I really focused as an anthropologist on consumer behavior. And so that's sort of what I bring to my work now, is thinking about how do we get people to reduce how much single-use plastics they use. Dave is in cybersecurity, so that's not really related at all. But we did both work extensively on the Obama campaign, doing a lot of voter registration. And I think our experiences there were really instrumental in helping us realize that a lot of people doing a little bit can have tremendous, tremendous impacts.
Yeah, that's cool. So you got to see firsthand what happens when you go even door to door and get the community engaged.
For sure.
So this became a bigger and bigger issue. You're collecting garbage, you're out there paddling around, you're having fun, but then you see the piles of garbage and it doesn't stop.
Yeah, there was definitely a few turning points, I would say, that catapulted us from just sort of doing a pastime into a much larger initiative and taking it to the next level. And so we live on the water, and Dave would often go for very long paddles in the late afternoon, and I would always be worried about him coming back, you know, before dark, especially because the bay can be quite busy with lots of, you know, large boat traffic and speedboats. And I'm watching, you know, just making sure he's going to get home okay, and I see this thing coming across the water, and I'm like, what is that? And oh my God, it's Dave, and it's his kayak, and it's like loaded on with trash. I mean, there's huge pieces of styrofoam, like from a boat ramp. There's like a plastic lawn chair, you know, bungeed onto the kayak, tremendous amounts of bags. And that's when I realized, okay, we need to get him a bigger boat, or we need a lot more help. And so that was sort of a turning point to thinking about how do we take this to the next level.
Yeah. So what's the next thing you do? How do you do that as former community organizers? And, you know, what did you do?
We started organizing informally, just sort of groups of friends, you know, hey, let's go out and do a beach cleanup. Let's spend a sunset collecting, you know, trash. And as we would do that, people would come up to us and they would say, hey, you know, what are you doing? I want to get involved. And when's the next cleanup? And they'd say, oh, I know somebody, and, you know, she does something like this. And so then we realized there was a lot of interest in doing this. I mean, it's surprising, but people love to pick up trash. It's fun, especially on the water. And so lots of people interested, you know, lots of people doing sort of similar things, but there was no real central way to put it together. And we drew some inspiration from Jam Base, so we're live music lovers, and when we want to find out when are the next shows coming up either in our town or elsewhere, we go to a website, and it helps us, you know, connect that. So we built volunteercleanup.org as a website to be a digital bridge to connect all of the people who are interested in finding cleanups with all the ones who are doing something like that.
That's so cool. And of course, there's been a lot of reporting lately about plastics in the ocean and plastics, the pollution of plastic, just because it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, it's in sea life, it's in the ecosystem. I mean, it's a real problem. And so you've grown this organization. You've created a website, volunteercleanup.org. You've got more people engaged. You're cleaning up more stuff, but it keeps coming. So do you also sort of think about this, where this stuff is coming from, and deal with the source?
Yes, in a few different ways. So as an anthropologist, I think a lot about how do we change consumer behavior, right? How do we get them to adopt more sustainable lifestyle practices? So we really think about the shoreline cleanup not as the solution, but as an eye-opening experience that is oftentimes shocking when people see what we see, and that then we hope becomes a catalyst for behavior change. So we focus on it that way, that the cleanup is not the solution, right? Because you could clean it up and a month later, it just keeps on coming and washing up with the tide. So people can see the problem, they can get more involved in the issue once they have the experience of doing the shoreline cleanup. And then beyond their own personal behavior, we also encourage people to get involved by not only reducing their own reliance on single-use plastics, but advocating for change at the local businesses that they support. If the businesses are still using styrofoam, there's been a lot of effort around straws and getting restaurants to not give out straws automatically, but only by request, or otherwise changing to paper straws. So we get sort of the people we're working with to push on really all sides.
It's a big job. It's a big old job, and you've taken it on in your neighborhood. So how many people do you have now in your network who are helping to do this cleanup and this sort of education effort?
So through the website, what's important to recognize is that we're two people and I can only be in one place at a given time. So to really scale the effort, what we've done is built networks of different organizations that maybe are hosting beach cleanups or shoreline cleanups, and then also databases of volunteers and putting them together. We just hit some pretty exciting milestones. So we have just surpassed the 1,000 mark for the number of cleanup events that we facilitated through the platform online.
Wow.
We have about over 8,000 unique volunteers that are coming out and participating in the cleanups, and they have collectively amounted to 75,000 volunteer hours, and we're just close to getting to 250,000 pounds of marine debris or plastic pollution removed from our shorelines.
That's wild. That's wild. Congratulations. That's amazing. All from just going out on a paddleboard and trying to enjoy yourselves. And any progress in the changing behavior? You're getting restaurants to sort of shift their policies a little bit, and are you working with any state legislators or anybody to try to change regulations?
Yeah, so we really push on all sides. So the people, government, and business, we really believe everybody has a role to play. Miami Beach is a very progressive town, so we've had a lot of support of our local commission. We were able to ban styrofoam in part because we were able to document how much we were pulling out of the mangroves in our local ecosystems. There's another initiative called Plastic Free MB, which is a voluntary program for restaurants who are phasing out single-use plastic, so they get certified, and we can kind of throw a lot of support and love their way for doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, listen, even for those of us who don't live on the ocean, this is an issue that we all need to pay attention to, because it's that the water flows downhill from either side of the Rockies to the ocean. So let me just ask you, if people want to find out more, is there a website they can go to? Well, you mentioned there is, volunteercleanup.org.
Volunteercleanup.org, and our platform is geographically agnostic. So anybody who wants to organize a cleanup can go to our website and do that. And if you're local into South Florida, you can go and find a cleanup. But we're really looking to expand, and so I would be happy to sort of handhold anyone else who wants to do what we've done. We have a model that can be replicated anywhere.
That's cool. And what's the next show that you and your husband are going to?
We're going to go see The Roots at the Fillmore on December 30th, and then we're going to be couch touring Fish for New Year's Eve.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Now we know your plans. Listen, congratulations, Dara Schoenwald and her husband Dave, the winners of this week's eChievement Award. They're the founders of VolunteerCleanup.org, making a big difference in South Florida, educating people, really cleaning up the beaches. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dara. eChievement Award winner Dara Schoenwald.
Let it all go, man. Just let it all go, man. Let it all go. Here comes the 4-5.
Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.